Mike Bohn joined now by Maycee Barber, who returns to action at UFC 323 on December 6th against Karine Silva. Maycee, we get a lot of fight announcements, and some of the stuff blends in. But when I saw this one, I had to stop and smile a bit because obviously hasn't been an ideal year for you, and it's just happy to know that you're back and able to fight. So I guess this news must have become even happier for you.
Oh, I'm glad you were happy because I was happy too. Yes, it has been a wild ride. Rough, what is it? Almost 18 months now. So I'm just, I'm finally excited to be able to be back in a camp again and back to having a fight again. And I'm just, feeling really blessed and very excited.
For sure. And I know I haven't seen you speak since the interviews you did immediately after what happened with the fight with Aaron. You didn't have many answers with then. It was all, very emotional and stuff. I know you're probably going to get asked about this a million times, so let's get it out of the way. But did you finally get the answers you needed about what happened that night and what you needed to do going forward?
I mean, I ended up the UFC sent me to a neurologist, several doctors actually, and we ended up being sent to a neurologist in Boston. And although they didn't have an exact pinpoint answer of, hey, this is exactly what happened, this is why it happened, and all of that, they had a solution. And so I never thought I would be a person that would be taking medication, but I am on they put me on medication, and that was the solution. And I haven't had any issues since then. My last event that I ever had was, I believe, like June or July. And so after all of that, I've been completely fine and healthy. And so, got the clearance from the neurologist, and then was cleared to be able to continue and train and fight and all of that. And so it was very exciting for me to be able to tell, Mick and the UFC that, hey, I'm ready to take a fight and let's go, let's make it happen. So, like I said, I'm just feeling really blessed.
Yeah, that's amazing news. So, when you say, the last event happened June or July, was there another incident following what happened
What
with the
happened with
fight?
the fight? It was just, it was just honestly, it was just me being having issues and having just trying to figure out what was going on. I don't necessarily want to confirm or deny, but we'll just say that it was not just the fight that I ended up having problems. It was a little bit after the fight that I was dealing with the same stuff, and so, like I said, the UFC ended up sending me to a specialist, and that's where I was able to kind of get some more, a solution.
And you mentioned you had to be on medication. You never saw yourself being in that. I know as a high level athlete, it's so important what you put in your body because it changes, so much about what comes out. Was that something that impacted how you have to change diet or training or anything like that?
No, honestly, I mean, there was a couple of different things that uh, it's just more of like a mental adjustment because I'm like, now I have to remember, we always take our supplements and stuff, but now it's like, oh, I got to remember to take something else. And it's just not something that I necessarily want to rely on, which is something that we talked to the doctor about. And he was like, okay, look, you're not going to have to do this forever, but this is the solution that we have to do for right now. And to see how your body reacts. And so far, my body's reacted really well to it. So yeah, I don't necessarily love putting anything extra in my body, but as far as adjusting physically, I mean, I feel like I'm in great shape and just training really hard, and I've been able to push and do everything that I was before any of my health issues. So um, I think it's been a great solution, and it's allowed me to train hard and perform and do what I need to do to prepare for this fight.
Mm. And one of the last things on this, Macy, we can talk about the actual fighting. When this happened, I couldn't help but think back to the interview we did in 2019 when you moved up to flyweight, and you were telling me about how the work with George Lockhart had just messed with your metabolism and the weight cutting down and the calorie deficiency and all this stuff. Is any of this connected?
Again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if there's oh, this is exactly what it is, but I think that us athletes, we put our bodies through a lot, and we're asking, especially as females, we're asking a lot of our bodies. You know, we're asking them to go and train and asking them to go and perform and asking them to go and cut weight and do all of these things. And on top of that, it's like at the end of the day, I'm like, we're still humans and we're still people that just need to function and have, you know, everything else that just works correctly. And so for me, I don't know if it's necessarily the weight cutting because I've never had a bad weight cut necessarily. This was the first time I've ever had any issues with a weight cut. I believe that it was kind of the opposite. I think that the health issues that I've had actually played a part in that weight cut, and which is why the team that I have around me was like, "Hey, look, you're not cutting anymore. Like, we understand you're gonna miss weight, but like, you're not allowed to cut weight anymore." Like, it was just to the point where it was unsafe, and I've never had that before, and it wasn't because I came in too heavy. It wasn't because of anything other than my body just wasn't in the physical state to, you know, cut weight or even perform. And so unfortunately I am one of those people where a lot of us fighters are, where we're just gonna go until someone tells us to stop. And you know, unfortunately it was my own body and the entire UFC that was like, hey, you can't do this right now, you know.
Yeah. Was the subject ever broached of coming back at 135 just to try to maybe cancel out some of the potential X factors that could come into play?
No, to be honest, I'm walking around at 135 right now. So, it's like I said, it was a weird, I don't know the reason why. I don't know the exact things. You know, I've always followed, I mean, I've worked with, since working with poor nutritionists and the wrong, the wrong people for myself. I've switched and I worked with Tyler for years. And we've never had a bad weight cut. We've always made weight. I've always been able to perform. I've always felt my best. And so this, like I said, this situation was just kind of different. And the conversation wasn't even, I mean, we did talk about for a little while. We were like, hey, what if we did like a mock weight cut and just see like how with the medication and with everything, like how your body would perform. And to be honest, like after like having everything kind of set and being on the medication and training and doing everything and resuming all of my normal life, my body is just, you know, it's back to a good state of I'm walking around at my normal walk around weight, you know, 135, 134. And I'm training hard, you know, and I'm performing well. And so it really wasn't like something where like, hey, we might have to, you know, move up. Because if I was to move up, I'm like, you know, I'd be smaller compared to those girls. And also, um, right now I'm 7, 8 pounds away from making 126, which is a breeze. My goal is a belt, and so I feel like with a good finish over this opponent, it continues my win streak. It solidifies my spot, and you know, if it's not this fight, then after the next fight, I for sure see myself getting the title shot, and I believe that that's, you know, something that I've been working for and something that I've been going for. You know, despite all the circumstances and everything, it's my goal, and it's my dream, and it's exactly what I'm going for, and what I'm going to have. And so, I do think that with this fight, it either solidifies me for the belt, and if not, then one more fight, and then I'll be ready.